The State Department has become basically a useless building that is just used to hire people that like to travel and have too many degrees and don't want to join the Army.
My guest today is Amanda Milius, a former Trump State Department official and director of the film The Plot Against the President. Amanda, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It is a pleasure. You've talked about how you face stiff resistance from career bureaucrats at the State Department a lot. Could you go into a little more detail about what you meant by that?
Well, I think we see now the difference between the kind of diplomacy that the Trump administration was interested in and the kind of diplomacy that the Obama, the Bush, the Biden administrations, basically everything we've had for many years. I would say it was kind of a warning, I was able to connect again with Rick Grinnell last night, who, of course, is our ambassador to Germany, and he was talking about tough diplomacy. And that's the kind of thing that what we were pushed back against. All of our tough diplomats were really essentially punished for actually demanding and pushing our agenda as the United States, as we should. The State Department has become basically a useless building that is just used to hire people that like to travel and have too many degrees and don't want to join the Army. Okay. So it's like, it's not preventing any wars, it's not preventing any international crises. All it's really doing is creating programs, and they become less and less relevant to the actual topic at hand the more years they carry on. It's a really awful thing because it's hardworking American dollars that are funding this giant mess of a foreign policy, which is what the United States, I think, has.
Right. Now, obviously, we're seeing the results of poor foreign policy right now in Ukraine.
Yeah, when the bombs start flying, I said this once when I was actually in the Trump State Department. I was kicking around the NEA floor, which is the Near East Affairs floor, and this was like the night of the Moab thing, in Syria, and like people were running around like there was something for them to do, and I was like, guys, I think when the bombs start dropping is when people stop calling this building. I think we're done here. Like, it didn't work.
So you're saying that maybe the State Department was just kind of ineffective and feckless and useless at this point?
I think it's worse than that. I think it's a specific agitation of certain countries, and they're too tightly involved in the CIA's adventurism around the world, and it's a great deal. I mean, it's worse than just a waste of money. It's a negative use of money. It has presided over America's decline for 30 years. I can't see any institution that has that track record as something that's favorable.
Sure. Now, why do you think that the State Department officials and these career bureaucrats were so unwilling to help you?
Because it would unveil that they had been presiding over this decline for 30 or as many years. I mean, we have conversations. I remember conversations that one of the people I worked for, one of the principals I worked for, had a meeting about China. And one of the things that she said was, what have you guys been doing this whole time? Because we basically were briefed on like just how bad the situation is. And you're like, why are you doing bead making classes in Botswana? Like, what about, this is a huge problem. Like, what are you doing? And what have you been doing? Like, it's just a question that they rarely get asked, because they're the way the bureaucratic system works is just this up and out thing. All they care about is checking certain boxes that they've spent enough money and created enough programs. And that's the judgment. There's no way to judge success there. There is no such thing as success. Success is nothing happened. So it's a very easily manipulated system.
Is this something that we can salvage? Is there a State Department?
Not really. I think the only thing you can do is radical reform of all of the government agencies, but most importantly, State Department, DOD, and the IC. So essentially the security state, because it's there's another point is that there are no domestic politics that aren't just performative and fake until you bring the security state to heel. Because now that we have info ops being done on the American public at the rate that they are, which is one of the reasons why we made Plot Against the President, to sort of break down the architecture of an info op, which they use every time. I mean, it's completely correct. It's scary, but there's a reason it's still the #1 documentary on Amazon, and it's because it's all correct.
Sure. Now, before we wrap, I do want to talk to you about the movie, The Plot Against the President, and what are you hoping to achieve with the film? What do you want audiences to take away from it?
Well, really, I wanted two things. I wanted both the Russiagate hobbyists, of which there are many, to say, yeah, this is correct. This is the right thing. This is it. This is all, learn something new as well, because there's insider information that I was able to get anonymously from people that were in the positions they were in. And for those people to be like, wow, I didn't know that, that puts a lot of pieces together. And for the average mom and dad who are just like, what the heck is Russiagate? Like, what is this? I thought that Trump was a Putin stooge. What do you mean he's not? And have them easily understand it. And that's why I think it stayed so relevant, is because every time something drops from Durham, people rewatch it because it's the best, easiest explanation, and you're like, oh yeah, that's why this matters. And obviously, Lee Smith, the author, is a genius. His way of looking at foreign policy is very similar to my opinion. So we're a good pairing, and I think that the book was excellent. And obviously, the participation of all the people. I mean, this is not hearsay. This is the Congressman Devin Nunes himself, the people that uncover the documents. It's not like a lot of conservative documentaries. It's like some guy who was like 10 miles down the road when something happened. I have the people that literally pulled the documents out of the printer. So it's as direct as you can get.
Absolutely. It's people who are right in the room. That was Amanda Milius, a former Trump State Department official and director of the film The Plot Against the President. Amanda, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.